Welcome back. Today I want to talk about the animal nature of your chakras. Now there's this scene in a great movie with Tom Cruise. It's called Live, Die, Repeat. I love these movies with a reincarnation themed story. There's books like that too. They all originate from books that had this theme. So there's this great scene where Tom Cruise walks in and he says, I'm going to tell you something. It's not going to make sense, but the longer I talk, the more sense it's going to make to you. That's what this might be like for you today. So I'm not talking about the pretty nature of the chakras. I'm not talking about love or bliss. Those are the benefits of doing the therapy, of working with the shadow side of the chakras. And that is the animalistic side of the chakras. So this is a second way to find your chakras and to understand them. And that's what I want you to walk away with. This might be a long conversation, and I want you to walk away with the most comprehensive understanding of how to find your chakras, how to dive into them, and how to plant a mental Om bomb into the chakra. So let's get into it. So first we have to understand what the chakras are. And this understanding comes from the neurotheologist Todd Murphy and his lineage of knowing, which comes from Michael Pessinger, all right? And the research that they did on the brain, which you can't find anywhere else. It's the most amazing research. And so it's not everywhere. It's just right in this one little spot. And so we have a brain and we have a body. And the two of those meet up through the central nervous system. And your brain does not have any way to process love and anger and jealousy. It doesn't have a place to put that. So if it was all in your head, right? And you knew that you were angry, but you didn't know why, and you couldn't figure it. Your brain doesn't have a way to process this information. It's very much like a heart attack, pain in your heart or pain in your kidneys. There are no sensory nerves in the heart, and there's no sensory nerves in the kidneys. So if they have a problem, they throw that information out. They project it either into the chest or into the back or into the lower back, but they project the pain somewhere else. And you say, oh, I have lower back pain, but it's really your kidneys, right? Or, oh, I have chest pain or back pain, but it's really your heart. That's a projection through the central nervous system of information that you could not process where it originated from. It's the same thing with your brain. You have pain because you go through life, something happens, and you feel this pain, and your brain projects it down into the heart, and you say, oh, I have heartache, right? Or something happens and we have to be afraid, and your brain projects the fear from the left amygdala down to the third chakra, and you go, ooh, I got this cold pit of fear in my stomach. Do you see how animalistic it is? You feel it in the body. And that's the syncing together of the brain and the body through the central nervous system. So that's the process of projection. All of the chakras, they're not a real thing. They're a ghost in the machine, you understand? They're a projection from the brain. And we feel it in one location or another, depending on where it's being projected from. So that's where the chakras are coming from. So let's start all the way down at the bottom, the very first chakra. And this was one that Todd Murphy couldn't find. So if you listen to his discourse on the chakras, he said there was no first chakra. He couldn't find it. He didn't understand where this was coming from. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is in the Gita. So the two Pandava brothers representing the first chakra and the second chakra are Sahadeva and Nakula. And they are twins. That's why. That's why Todd Murphy couldn't find the first chakra. They're both the first and the second chakra are sexual in nature. All right? As that part of your brain meets up with the body, it creates the instinct of sex, and it's projected down into that first and second chakra. And so they're twins. So they're almost the same thing. The first and the second chakra are almost exactly alike, with a slight difference. And so the animalistic reaction for the first chakra is a little bit crude, okay? So when you're going through life and you feel a kind of fear that has to do with your body, usually your butt will pucker up, right? And Robin Williams loved to make jokes about this because we've experienced it all at one point or another. So it's very funny. It's a very taboo subject. And so it makes us laugh about it, right? So when your butt puckers, that's the animalistic reaction of the brain projected all the way down into that very first chakra. And so what we're combining here, the yogis talk about, well, the first chakra is earth. And so when you have a possessive reaction, you will feel it coming from that very first chakra. That's where you feel it arising from your chakras. Again, it's the brain, but it's projected all the way down into that very first chakra in the coccyx. You get earth and sexuality, and together you get possessiveness. One time I had a friend come into my house, and they immediately they started going through my stuff, and my reaction was like, what are you doing? This is my house. You can't just go through my stuff, right? That's that possessive reaction from the brain. It's sensual in nature. Ashok, my teacher, told me that the reaction from the first chakra is, hey, who is that knocking at my door? So you might be meditating and all of a sudden somebody knocks at your door. Who is knocking at my door? Right? That's that reaction from the very first chakra, the possession of your house or the possession of your things. And the way that we feel that first chakra pucker usually has to do with the possession of our body. So when the possession of our body is threatened, we feel the butt pucker. We get that very strong animalistic reaction in the very first one. So fear means it's also projecting the right amygdala, isn't it? But we're going to concentrate. So when I mention the chakras, understand that there are multiple parts of the brain that are being projected into every single chakra. But we're going to talk about just the primary one that is being projected. And the primary part of the brain that's being projected into the very first chakra is the left hippocampus. So that's the same for the first and the second chakra. The left hippocampus is being projected into the center of sex. Now, I was explaining this to somebody that came to me for Kriya. And he said, no, I don't have any sex problems. I don't have anything. I'm totally clear on sex. And I was like, really? Well, it doesn't really matter how clear you are on any of these subjects. If you have a brain and you have a body, therefore, these are in you. They are projected into you. And our hope is to just clear them out as much as we possibly can to kind of clear the way and let the consciousness come back up to the brain in a freeze response, the tranquil breath, and the roll up of consciousness, right? Those three things. So we're just trying to clear the way. But the reality is you have a brain and you have a central nervous system, you have a body, they're going to sync up, and we all have these natural animalistic processes going on inside of us all the time. You cannot get rid of them. So when you feel very clear in a meditation, it's kind of like cleaning your kitchen. So you go in and you make food, and then there's always going to be some cleaning of the kitchen to do. You can keep your kitchen very clean, but you're always going to need to continuously clean it. And that's the idea in Kriya Therapy, that we're going to clean it out continuously every day. We're going to do some Kriya Yoga. We're going to do some Om Japa in the chakras. We're going to continuously clean out that kitchen. That's the idea. It's a continuous therapy and it doesn't end. Our hope is to get very clear for a moment so that we have these three things, the tranquil breath, the freeze response, and the roll-up, and we get back to the brain momentarily and we have a very deep transformative experience. But that doesn't mean we get to quit with the Om Japa in the chakras. It's a continuous job, just like cleaning your kitchen every day. We're going to go back into life. We're going to go back into the kitchen. Therefore, we have to keep cleaning. The second chakra is a combination of sex, and now we have the element of water. And water has to do with our relationships with other people. So sex meets up with relationships, and we have the combination creates jealousy, and it creates that passion and that desire for companionship. This is not love. It will mimic love, and a lot of times it is mistaken for love, but it's very close to possessiveness. So I can possess my house, I can possess my objects, and now we're beginning to possess people, and that's the second chakra. So you see how akin the first and the second chakra are. They're very tied together. They are twins for a reason in the Bhagavad Gita. Sahadeva and Nakula, the two of them are very, very close together. One is with earth and objects, and one is with people and water. Isn't that fascinating? When we feel the second chakra, it's a very animalistic pull, desire to pull forward and to join with somebody else. So you remember the two guys in Wayne's World. They will see a pretty woman and they will go, shawing, the shawing. So they had this animalistic shawing reaction towards a beautiful woman. That is the animalistic nature of the second chakra. So now we have sexual possessiveness of people, that very deep need to sit with someone and be close with someone in a family or a relationship. That desire is inside of us, and it's not going to go away. It's just a natural process in the body. So long as you have a body, you're going to have this process going on inside of you. Your brain is going to project it down into that second chakra, and you'll find that sexual possessive need inside of you. And we can clean it up so it doesn't turn horrible, right? That's the idea with the Om Japa and the chakras. But it is a very natural process. It's not something that's going to go away. And I can confirm that as a monastic and from other monastics that lived in an ashram for over 50 years. I remember a great lecture from Brother Dharmananda. And one of the young monks raised his hand. He said, "Sir, is sex ever going to go away for me?" He says, "No, absolutely not. It's been inside of you for over 1,000,000 years of evolution. You think you're going to snuff that out in 10 or 20 or 30 years? Absolutely not. That process is going to be with you all your life. So you might as well learn a very gentle and self-possessed control of it. Not an authoritarian control, but a partnership. It's much better." And this is what Lahiri Mashaya meant when he said, to work out your sexual desires by creating a family. And that will do it. When you have enough kids, you'll say, you know what, this is enough. and it will curb your desire very naturally. The third chakra is the fire center, and it combines with the center of fear. So we have the right amygdala projected down into the third chakra, and we have the fire of doing. And so this is why Krishna talks to Arjuna. So Arjuna represents the third chakra. And you would think that Krishna would talk to the oldest Pandava brother, right? You'd think he'd talk to him in the throat, right? The wise one in the throat. You'd think that Krishna would talk to him, but he doesn't. He talks to the turning point in the chakras, and that's the third one. That is the center inside of us that gets up and does. And so this is the center for entrepreneurs. This is the center that gets you out of bed in the morning. This is the fire and the desire to create and to do. And the yogi absolutely needs this center. We have to do the work of the meditation in order to go deep. We have to do the action of the Kriya. Kriya means action, to do. So Lahiri Mahashaya may have never called his yoga Kriya. It may have only come from his students. And what Banmali, his great-grandson, said was really, Lahiri was telling his students, go home and do your homework. Go and do your work. Kriya, to do. That's where it all came from. And the students adopted that and said, well, let's call this Kriya Yoga. The name that he actually gave this yoga was Sahaja, which means natural, the natural way. And that's what we're doing, this natural therapy through the chakras in order to create a natural response back to the brain. Oh my God, that's beautiful. All right. So the third center is the doer inside of us. And that's why Krishna talks to Arjuna. It's this fire to concentrate, this piercing action. And that's why Arjuna is known to be an expert with the bow and arrow and to pierce all of the shots that he made. He was just brilliantly fantastic at shooting that bow and arrow. He was pure none, right? He was an absolute master at focus and concentration. And that's the fire inside of us, the fire to do. It's also the fear, because now this is where the ego really begins. This is where the sense of self, this is where we get a lot of our sense of self. And so the ego is just emerging. And the first thing when you're a kid and you get a big balloon, it's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And you just hug it. You don't want nobody to pop your balloon. And so the fear center, the right amygdala, is projected down into that third chakra. So along with this fire, we have this great fear and protectiveness that comes over us. And that's why the Om Japa specifically in the third chakra is so necessary to mitigate some of that fear and wipe it out and give us courage to go deep into a non-dual state. It's very difficult to let go of ourselves and enter into a non-dual state. And so the third chakra and wiping out that fear is very, very necessary. In the third chakra, the animalistic response that we feel so easily understandable in the body is that cold pit of fear in the stomach. So something happens, something really big happens, and we get that really cold pit of fear in our stomach. That's the purely animalistic reaction to the projection of the right amygdala into the third chakra. The heart is so easy because we all know love and we all know the hurt which is associated with love and the heart. It's so easy to understand the heart. So when something happens, this is the true love, right? In the second chakra, we had a mimicking of love but it was not real love. It's really about reproduction, right? But now we get into the purity of the left amygdala, which is projected down into the heart. And so we see somebody that we have been through ups and downs with. We've been through heaven and hell with them, and our heart reaches out to embrace them. We feel that great love in our heart. That's the positive side, right? And then something happens. Somebody that we really are close with says something little, and it just hurts us. And we feel that hurt in the heart. Again, if it was just in the brain, how would we process it? How would we understand it? So the brain projects it down into the vehicle of our lives so we can understand it. And we feel that heartache and that hurt in our hearts. That is the animalistic reaction of the heart. And the great joy, the great bliss that is projected into the heart that the yogi feels in meditation, that all comes from the left amygdala. So as we wipe out the garbage, right? As we wipe out the negative side, as we clean it out as very best we can through the process of Om Japa in each of the lower chakras and the heart, we begin to reveal that pure bliss and that pure joy of the left amygdala. Finally, we get to the throat, to the fifth Pandava brother, and this is where, of course, we speak, right? And so we have, again, the left hippocampus and the left amygdala projecting down into the throat. So we have the shadow side is the speech projected into the throat. And when we don't let it out, when we don't express what we would like to say, then we get words stuck in our throat, right? And we have to swallow our spit. So all these very animalistic sayings that we have, words stuck in my throat, swallow my spit. These are the animalistic reactions to the left hippocampus wanting to express through the throat, and you clamping down on that and holding it in so you don't get fired. You want to tell your boss to take a hike and you don't because you'd lose your job. There would be repercussions. And so what do you do with that feeling of words stuck in your throat? Well, you just Om into it. You do the therapy. Because there are always going to be situations when we really want to say something and we don't. It's not appropriate. It's not tactful for whatever reason. We don't lose our job. We don't want to lose our loved ones or our friends. And so we hold it in, right? Very natural. And so this is what the process of Om Japa in the chakras is designed to help clean that out. Also, by chanting Om in the throat specifically, we help to dampen the response of the left hippocampus. And so that will help us to quiet down the words coming from the left hippocampus, the center of words in the brain. Finally, we have the Ajna chakra. And where is it? Well, it's right about here in the center at the top of the cervical vertebrae, where the cervical vertebrae rest with the skull. And so the easiest way to find that point, because it's very internal, is to turn these 2 points and feel it internally. And so if you sit very straight and still and make a slight turn, okay, it's not a big turn, all right? It's a slight turn, just a little swivel back and forth, and try and feel that your neck, your cervical vertebrae are a screw going into your skull, and you'll start to feel, you just start to feel so good. Why is that? It's your mind is putting pressure on the medulla and it's lowering your heart rate just a little bit. And you might, if you're practiced with Om Japa, you might start feeling a little bliss, which I am. So that's how you find the medulla, okay? It's just this little swivel right at the very top of your neck as it goes into your skull. And you can feel that it should feel like you're coming home. It's a very beautiful sensation. So the medulla is very beautiful. It's acting from a projection of your left hippocampus. It's projecting into the medulla, into this very center, and that projection may give us visions or dreams. So when the yogi has a very deep vision, I'm not talking about dreams, I'm talking about a vision of something important and truthful and giving the yogi knowledge and understanding. These visions take place from a projection of the left hippocampus into the medulla. And so this is why the yogi, when he goes very deep, he enters into a what I call a download phase, right? And what my teacher, he said, this is where you Google God, right? You're downloading this vast knowledge from the higher self, from the collective oversoul that knows much more than you yourself. And how we can put that into terms with your brain is your left brain is a linear processor, meaning it does one thing at a time, one after the other, only. Very straightforward, very linear. And so getting from A to Z will take you a long time. The right brain is a spatial processor. It's a multi-processor because it is spatial. When you are spatial, you see everything at once, right? So getting from A to Z is now, because you can look at A and Z all at once in a spatial processor. A linear processor must go through 26 letters to get to Z. That's why the vast connections of the right brain, it's a superior experience. And you will feel that, you will know that in the download phase. Suddenly something will come to you and your whole brain will light up. You can't believe it. It's, oh, I just blew my mind. I don't understand how this happened. It's the download phase. That spatial processor is seeing A to Z all at once. Now. Just like that. It's amazing. So that's the process being projected into the medulla. And you might say, well, why would I want to ohm that out? Why do I ohm into the medulla then, Forrest? Well, the reason is the yogi wants to enter into the purely non-dual state. And so he will ohm even through the visions so that he can enter into the state of a pure samadhi, a merger between his consciousness and one pure idea, one original idea of the higher self. He wants to enter into a state which is even beyond the download phase. That's the non-dual state. So I hope this is beginning to make sense. We have the anus puckering. We have the shooing of the second chakra. We have the cold pit of fear in the third chakra. We have the heartache and the hurt in the heart. We have the words stuck in our throat, and we have dreams and visions lightening us up. And the reaction for that, what is the reaction? We push back the head and we get into this center, right? The medulla. As we push back the head, we go, oh, now I get it. It's a natural animalistic reaction in the body from the projection of the mind in a very profound experience of each of these chakras. So now you have another tool in your toolkit. You have another way. So there's a video on my channel. It's called How to Find Your Chakras. And we find them very physically. And it's a very, very good tool. And now you have a second way. And you can use both of these tools. Find the chakra, for example. Find the hurt in your heart and then ohm into the heart. Find the fear in your third chakra. Ohm into the third chakra. Find the possessiveness in the first and second chakra. Ohm into the possessiveness. Find the words stuck in your throat. Ohm into the words stuck in your throat. This is how we find all of these chakras and we ohm into them. We do the chakra therapy, the one that I teach in the Big Bliss training. I really go deep into how these are projected into the body and how oming into them is a continuous therapy that transforms us and reveals that bliss, especially of the left amygdala and more. Eventually, we clear the way, all the way, get the roll up. And you see the roll up on the Big Bliss training. You see it happen right in front of you. It's really cool. It's nowhere else are you going to see that progression and see it happen in somebody on video. It's one of the best things I've ever done. So that's what the Big Bliss is all about. It's all about clearing away and allowing that roll up of consciousness back into the brain for a very deep experience in the brain in meditation. So I hope that you love this. I hope it begins to make sense to you. As I said, the more that we talk about it, the more that we see it in our everyday lives, we can go, oh my God, that's it. And that's it. And that's that chakra. And we can see this interaction between the brain and the body and the world around us. It's the most amazing thing. And I hope you love this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all